Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we're checking out another brand new Beast of the Mesozoic figure, but this time it's not a Ceratopsian or a Raptor series release. We've got ourselves a Tyrannosaur series release. This is obviously the Tyrannosaurus Rex, but it's the version that is based on the Dino Riders T Rex, which is insanely awesome. Anything Dino Riders related is definitely something that I'm interested in. And obviously this was part of the Kickstarter for the Tyrannosaur series. It was a Kickstarter exclusive version of the T-Rex. So if you didn't acquire it there, it's a little bit harder to come by now. But of course, at the end of the video, I will attempt to find a place where you can still purchase it. I just don't know that it's available anywhere currently. But you can see that again, this is the Tyrannosaurus with an adjustable base, and down here it states that we have 22 points of articulation, and the box art for this may be the absolute most beautiful box art that I have ever seen for any dinosaur release ever, potentially, because obviously it has that incredible vintage Dino Riders style and appearance to it, and it absolutely screams nostalgia in every possible way. So I love the box art. I honestly cannot even begin to stress enough how much I love the box art. As far as what we have up here on the top of the box, you can see some images of the T-Rex. Obviously, we've got the more accurate style Tyrannosaur with Dino Riders colors. And again, the information over here. And then if we actually just pick this back up for a moment here and turn it. Here on the back of the box, you can again see some more information about the T-Rex. You can see some information as well as an image over here of the figure. And then, of course, you can also see the image that we had seen on the front of the box. Now, this is basically just the slip cover, because once you remove the slip cover, we'll actually see the Rex itself contained within. So there is the back of the box now without the slip cover on it, and obviously we can see the different Tyrannosaur figures that are available in the first wave of the Tyrannosaur series, one of which is the 1/18th scale T-Rex, which we see right here, that I have reviewed here on the channel. We also have the 1/35th scale version of that same color scheme of the Rex. You can also see the Eutyrannus, the Juvenile Rex, the Guanlong, and the Dailong. And there's also, of course, the other Kickstarter exclusive 1/35th scale T-Rex, which we have also reviewed here on the channel, which is the Walking with Dinosaurs version. And then down at the bottom, you can see again that it includes an articulated action figure, a collectible card, and a detailed two-part display base, and also features 22 points of articulation, is 27 inches long, and has optional fixed standing legs and 3 sets of interchangeable feet, opposable wire tail, can be posed with or without the base, and a sturdy metal foot pin for the base. So if we turn it around and take a look at the front of the box, we can now see the window area here showing off our absolutely incredible looking T-Rex in there. I'm really excited to get this out, because the first version, the more mainline version of the 1/18th scale T-Rex, absolutely blew my mind, and I'm just so psyched to see this here. Again, because the first one was so exciting, but also I really want to see this one next to the other version. So let's go ahead, pop the box open, and check it out. So inside the packaging, we of course have our instructions as far as how to apply the tail, how to get the limbs moving, how to switch the legs out for the opposite legs, and all sorts of information, all stuff that's pretty important to pay attention to. So definitely good to read when you acquire one of these. And we also have the awesome card here, that kind of trading collectible card, and you can see again sports that insanely beautiful, incredibly nice, and pretty old school sort of a style image here of the T-Rex that we see on the front of the box. And then here on the back of the card, you can see again the Beasts of the Mesozoic logo, a really nice dino toy photography image here, and also some information on the T-Rex itself. As I always say, I love these cards. We've also got the base, and the base looks quite a bit different color-wise compared to the original 1/18th scale Rex. I love that kind of like reddish sort of a look to the rocky formation that we have here. The base definitely looks nice. We also have all of these pieces here, so we'll go ahead and set that down. And you can see that we basically have the legs that you can use to switch out right here. You've got 2 different legs that have a bit more articulation than the legs that we have on the Rex currently. And you also have, alternating feet that you can switch out for different toe positions. So that helps to add quite a bit of extra posability possibilities for your Tyrannosaurus. I'm not going to mess with this stuff right now because we initially went over this with the original 1/18th scale Rex, the more, mainline version of the 1/18th scale Tyrannosaurus. So I don't feel like we really need to go over this stuff again. If you are interested in checking out the, aspects of the legs and everything a little bit more, make sure you check out my initial Rex review, which I will include at the end of the video, as well as a link in the description. Again, if you want to check out the alternate paint variant, which is the more mainline version, and get a better idea of how this stuff works. But of course, the star of the show is the massive T Rex here. I'm trying to bring it in without smacking my sideshow Triceratops over here. And, of course, the base. We don't have it on the base quite yet, but there is the Dino Riders variant of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and man, is that nice. That is definitely much nicer than I was expecting it to be, and I'm not really sure why I didn't expect it to be so beautiful, but it honestly does look a lot nicer in person than it does on any type of images that I've seen of it prior. They really, really did a great job, and even previously when I was taking a look at it, I would look at the images of it and stuff, and I would think, the paint scheme looks awesome. It absolutely is Dino Riders style, but I didn't think it looked incredibly natural on the Rex, but having it here, I absolutely have changed my mind. Like, it really does look great on the Tyrannosaurus overall, and may even be nicer than the original 1/18th scale version that I had reviewed. Like, it is just really, really vibrant as far as the greens that are used on this. Those greens just pop so nicely, as do the variations of browns. But this is definitely way nicer than I was expecting it to be, so let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So we have reviewed the sculpt of this in the past with the initial 1/18th scale Tyrannosaurus review, so we don't need to take a look at the sculpt again. Just like I said with the extras, if you want to see a more detailed review of the actual sculpt, make sure you check out the original Rex review. But what we need to take a look at with this one is basically what's different compared to the original one. And you can see again how nice those greens look. And they've done a very good job of applying them in a way where those greens pop so nicely on the sculpt, because they've basically added a really nice dark green, very, very dark green, and then dry brushed those lighter greens over top really carefully, really nicely. And because of that, those lighter greens pretty much jump right off of the sculpt and, incredibly well fashion and highlight the detail in possibly the nicest way possible. Like, it looks so good as far as the way that detail just jumps off of the sculpt. Even there in the eye socket area, all those wrinkles and creases in the eye socket are just popping so nicely. You can see the eyes painted with a nice reddish brown, giving a black pupil, and that as well has a nice gloss coat, shines very nicely. We also have this lighter green, even lighter than what we see on the majority of the body, but up here on the top of the figure, and that kind of highlights the upper part of the head very nicely, and it's also very nicely applied. You can see, I think we have like a dark wash up there as well, so that as well has a little bit of color variation to it. And then as you move down, you start to see this really nice, kind of almost like a reddish or like an orangish brown running along the green here before we transition back to a yellowish tone of color that runs along the jawline for the Rex. And I think that coloration works really quite nicely and looks beautiful overall on the T-Rex. And you can also see we transition very nicely to that yellow here for the underside of the throat. But it's cool the way that they've kind of done this, because so we see the yellow here. Underneath the yellow, you kind of see the brown here, that like reddish brown. You can kind of see it creeping through the scales. You can absolutely see it down here in the throat region, kind of creeping through all of those skin wrinkles. But here we have the yellow, and then the brown here is kind of dry brushed over the yellow, so now you see the yellow kind of creeping through all of those scales, and it just works so good as far as making, again, the model look really highly detailed, but also just enhancing the paint and sculpt overall. We do, of course, have an articulated jaw for the Rex. You can see we have a really nice light, kind of like a pinkish tone here for the inside of the mouth, and it also has a nice reddish wash. You can see that area right there. You can basically pick up on the red wash beautifully right here in the skin flap here of the side of the mouth. And then of course you've got that really nicely painted tongue. The tongue is a bit of a darker reddish tone in there, and look at how nice the paintwork is for the teeth. Well, of course, you can also see the reddish wash in there, as well as the incredibly nice and very realistic gloss coat. But the teeth are all painted so perfectly, so precise. Every tooth sculpted individually, every tooth well, we lose focus, but every tooth is painted so perfectly. It's very impressive. Again, I'm always blown away by the high quality of a Beasts of the Mesozoic release, but again, I don't think I'm ever more blown away than when I actually get to see one in hand, because the quality is pretty much unmatched. Up here at the top of the head, you can again see all of the really nice paintwork up here with that light green highlighting all of the wrinkles. As you move down the course of the neck, you can see the lighter green running along the lower part of the neck as well. But we have that darker green running along the upper side of the dinosaur, and we don't have a whole lot of color going on up here, but we do have some slight hints of browns showing up here and there, like I can see it right there in the hip and stuff. But as you run down the course of the Rex, you again have that kind of reddish brown running along the green, and then the yellowish tones down here. And you can also see again the lighter green running along, and I like that it kind of like stops here and kind of spots and designs down a little bit. It looks really, really neat. As you move down into the arms are also that kind of reddish brown sort of a coloration, and then you lead down into the fingers. Obviously the underside, which you can see over there, is that nice yellowish tone, and the fingers are painted nicely with actually a yellowish sort of almost like a mixture of a yellow and a tan. Very interesting color choice for that, but it actually works really nicely and looks very good. The nails also have a nice gloss coat to them. You can of course see that yellowish tone here in the stomach as it pretty much overtakes the entire stomach area. Really smooth transition from that brown down to the yellow, and you can also see the brown kind of creeping through again all of the areas as the feet hit the camera here, but all of the areas of that skin texture. And then as you continue to move back, we pretty much remain that same steady pace of a color scheme where we have the darker running along the top, you have the lighter green here, the reddish brown, and then the yellowish tone moving down. And that's pretty much how it looks as you move out the entire length of the tail. It looks really cool as far as the color scheme goes. Definitely a very, very appealing and again, very old school Dino Riders style coloration for the Rex. And then as you move down here, you can see that we again transition from the yellowish tone to that kind of like reddish brown here for the feet, and they've dry brushed it out really beautifully where all of the scales are highlighted in, again, the absolute most realistic way possible. Definitely a nice wash seems to have been applied down there as well. You can see the scoots running down the front of the foot, and the toes are painted very nicely with a darker tone. And again, you have the very nicely painted nails that have that nice gloss coat. You can even see the dew claw and everything painted really beautifully over there. No real color variation or anything for the underside aside from the yellows and browns that we have through the course of the Rex, but it looks incredible as I smack the camera again with the feet of the T-Rex. And then if we turn it around, you can again see that everything looks just as incredibly impressive over here as it did with the initial side. Just gorgeous all around. Definitely one of my favorite Beasts of the Mesozoic figures so far. This is incredibly, incredibly nicely done. And then, of course, the base has pretty much the same style of base that we had with the previous Rex release, but obviously we have a much nicer, kind of like a reddish sort of a tone that also has a dark wash applied to it throughout. And then you have like some yellows and stuff, which also have that dark wash applied to it. So it adds a really cool visual for the base and a lot of realism with the way it's painted out. We also have those kind of vines that are very dark as far as the coloration goes. But the base looks super cool, and I'm really excited to actually see the Rex on the base. You can also see it splits here, as it is two parts. You can kind of see it there as it's snapped together. So if you really want, you, I guess, could take the parts, apart. You could have the base in two pieces, but incredibly nice base as well for a gorgeous Tyrannosaurus. As far as a size goes, even though we have measured the figure before, and even though the box already told us the length, we'll just go ahead and confirm it. You are actually looking at, it said about 27 inches. It's actually about 27 3/4 inches, or around 70.5 centimeters. So definitely pretty long. And then for a height to the top of the neck here, in the position it's currently in, you're looking at about 9 inches, or around 23 centimeters for the height. Again, it can be altered depending on the way you position your Rex, but that's the position currently. And then as far as putting it on the base, you can see you've got some holes here on the underside of the feet, and you just want to, and it's a little hard to do this at times without matching it up. There we go. We want to put the hole of the foot in the base. Now I've lost it again because I didn't put it down correctly. There we go. We just had to kind of turn the base around and put it on correctly because I was not doing it correctly. But as far as a comparison goes, with the Rex standing on its base, you can see it is absolutely gigantic. Again, exactly as you would expect it to be at 1/18th scale. It's bound to be a huge Rex, and that's exactly what we have here. But on top of that, I think the comparison we would want to see the most would be this with the other Rex of the same size. I'm not going to do a bunch of comparisons this time around because I've already done them in the initial Rex review. Again, this is basically just checking out anything different with this Rex compared to the original one. And of course, the paint job is the primary difference, but I do want to see the two together, so let's bring the other one in. So here are both of the 1/18th scale Tyrannosaurs from the Beasts of the Mesozoic Tyrannosaur series standing next to each other, and they look so cool next to each other. It really is neat to have two gigantic Tyrannosaurs in this size range, and you could actually get a third if you choose to purchase one of the gray unpainted ones, so you can paint your Rex yourself and have a third version again of this massive 1/18th scale version. But I'm still unsure as to which one I think is my favorite. I actually still think I might say the original one that I had reviewed, the more mainline release, but the Dino Riders version still is fantastic. It's really hard to choose between these two, but I can definitely say that they are both gorgeous. And then, of course, as far as the articulation goes, we have the articulated jaw. We also have articulation on the tongue inside the mouth to kind of lift it up and put it down. I'm just going to run through this really quickly, not really give much of, like, an actual display of the articulation, because, again, I did this in the initial review, but you've got a spot right here in the neck and right here, so you can kind of turn the head of the Rex. It is absolutely stiff right now, and I really need to kind of wear that in a little bit before I'll really be able to get... Actually, let's get the base out of here because it's falling off the base currently. I didn't have it in all the way, I guess. But you can definitely see, again, you can get some nice movement with the Rex. It's not, super movable currently, but I could probably, loosen it up and work it in a little bit where I could get a little bit more movement in that neck. Of course, you also have the articulation here in the shoulder area as well as the elbow and the wrist, which is a little stiff. There we go. That's something that the 1/35th scale versions do not have. You can also pull the arms out away from the body on top of going forward and back. You then have the articulation in the midsection, the hip, the knee, and then on the other leg, you can see there were a few more joints moving down the course of the ankle area where you could articulate it. And then you've also got a spot here, here, and here, if I can get it in camera, as you move out the length of the tail, and then a wire tail there out at the end, just to add a little bit more as far as display options for your Tyrannosaurus. Again, I definitely would say if you are interested in seeing a more kind of detailed look at the articulation, check out my initial review of the 1/18th scale Tyrannosaurus. So this Kickstarter exclusive Dino Riders version of the 1/18th scale Tyrannosaurus Rex from the Beasts of the Mesozoic Tyrannosaur series is yet again fantastic. Like, I couldn't be happier to have both of these versions now in my collection. Every single Beasts of the Mesozoic figure I get is always just a complete knockout, but these Tyrannosaurs specifically are shaping up to be the best of all when it comes to the Beasts of the Mesozoic line, because this is now, technically four Tyrannosaurs that I've reviewed now, and every single one has been nothing short of a masterpiece. And yet again, that is exactly the same case for this one, and I love the colors of this one. Again, having that throwback to the Dino Riders T Rex is always awesome, but the actual application of that paint is masterful on this. Like, it looks so good everywhere. They've done such a good job of course, applying dry brushing techniques and washes and stuff to make sure all of the color just looks super realistic, super lifelike, and of course, the paintwork, as always when it comes to a Beast of the Mesozoic figure, does a great job of complementing and highlighting the sculpt as the sculpt does to the paint job. And again, it's taken a coloration that you might not, think could potentially look all that natural for a Rex, and absolutely made it look natural on it. It overall definitely looks like it could be the coloration of a living, breathing Tyrannosaurus Rex, and they've applied it in a way where it absolutely does look, again, like body color and not just paint on a figure. The sculpt is incredible, again, having a really nice, more updated version of a T-Rex. You've got lips, you've got everything you like to see on a Tyrannosaur nowadays, and on top of that, it is as highly detailed as you're going to find anywhere for a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And you take all of those amazing attributes and add it up with the fact that you have articulation on this Rex and quite a bit of it, and you've got yourself one heck of a winner when it comes to this version of the T-Rex. Again, unfortunately, this was a Kickstarter exclusive, so I'm not entirely sure if you can still purchase it, but you can always get the alternate version that I had shown off, just a moment ago with the other version, the more mainline version of the 1/18th scale Rex. So I will try to find somewhere where you can purchase this, but again, I don't know if you still can. If you can't, I'll still include a link, of course, in the description to the Creative Beast Studio website where you can head on over there and purchase this or any of the other Tyrannosaurs that are releasing in the Tyrannosaur series. So make sure you do that. Make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.